The best coaches in the game, we really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we hit the block, helmet's casket is got. You be seeing helmet after helmet, helmet after helmet. First place, second place, fifth place, eighth place, 12th place, 15, 16, 20. So many helmets, you got blurred vision, we got too many. Tick your tech. Oh man, shit. They got us fucked up. Army, regroup. We pledge always to have that edge. We don't fire warning shots. Competition just dropped. We locked and loaded before lock. Whatever the time, yeah. Do you even correlate?
Being the best requires a willingness to outwork your competition. There's always someone smarter, faster, sharper, more naturally gifted to come around.
What's up? This is FantasyFling with DFS Army doing a recap. Week 17, Week 18, Millie Maker review. It's bittersweet because this is the last one of the season. So with that, I'm going to look at the trends for the entire season so we can remember this and use it to attack next season. So let's go ahead and get right into it. We're going to start with my write-up that's over at dfsarmy.com. Check it out. This is a free article, so if you're not a DFS Army subscriber, you can still see this. You can see this every week when I write it. Been doing it for the past couple of years at DFS Army. You'll be back next year dropping this, so check it out. Week 17. We'll start with that one. I got married last week, so I didn't do the week in review. And so I figured, you know what? It's week 18. I'm doing the week 18, but I like things to be linear. I don't like there to be a gap in it. So I was like, you know what? I'll do the week 17 review and we'll just don't miss one. So here it is. Last week, just looking back on it, we pretty much, DFS Army was on this. We kind of thought this game, Baltimore-Miami game, could have some fireworks, and it did. But, really it was just all on the Baltimore side, which, we love Lamar Jackson, so that was great. They got 56 points, and what we got was Lamar and Zay Flowers in the winning build here. Winning stack that was able to get Chad Deke to the top of the leaderboards to win $1 million on DraftKings. And there was a couple stacks. So it was Lamar to Zay Flowers and also Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson. So the rare stack without the quarterback, two players without the quarterback. So if you're allowing a rule, if you're setting a rule that says disallow more than two pass catchers without their quarterback, well, this week would have been one where you kept yourself out of a win, at least out of $1 million win. It doesn't happen often, but here you see it happen. Just between the four players, 105 total stacking points. And, it's pretty contrarian, only 32%, as we're going to see when we get in here. This total lineup was very contrarian. So we're going to see week 17 and then we're going to see week 18. Total contrast in lineups. So a lot of different ways to skin a cat. I think what was surprising for me was that the fact that this whole lineup really didn't. The highest owned player was 12%. Normally we will see, a lot of chalk and then, a couple pivots, maybe a contrarian stack. Really everything with this lineup was contrarian to Kenneth Walker, Lamar, Zay Flowers only being 10%. That's 16% for a stack. That's very low. And, just all across the board. So under 60%, really low. And there were obviously some top leverage plays with Lamar at 6%. And Devontae Adams, oh my gosh, he was an amazing leverage play. The DS was pushing him last week at 7,400. We saw why. And it's like I always say, this is why you want to be a DFS Army subscriber. This is why you want to be a DFS Army VIP, because the Domination Station literally will push players on you all year long. And 9 times out of 10, they will smash. And this is exactly what happened. Devontae Adams was popping in the DS and he smashed. At 2% ownership, scored 40 points at 7,400. So great leverage. By the way, if you like this kind of content, and you're a DFS Army subscriber, you obviously, you know how good the domination station can be. If you're not, right now, you can use code FantasyFling for 10% off a VIP subscription. And, even though the NFL is coming to an end, we still have the playoffs. We still have a month left of NFL. So try it out. In fact, there's a free month offer in the video. And we have all sports. So if you play DFS for more sports than just NFL, we got MLB coming up, not before long. Right now, NBA, NHL, PGA, all the sports, NASCAR, you name it. So we got everything for you. And so moving on to pricing and value. What I loved about this lineup is you have 3 players above 7K. And also you have Kenneth Walker above 6K at 6,100. So that's really hard to do unless you can really hit some value plays. And that's exactly how you saw Darius Slayton and Wando Robinson in this lineup. And then you got the Texans nailing 7X their salary. So that is exactly how this lineup comes together. Really good stuff. Was a low scoring week, and it's kind of going to be a theme with the next week as well. So 218 points. Let's move it along to week 18. A lot of people are saying play light this week. I don't like to play light week 18. I love the puzzle of week 18. You got to be a real sicko to want to play in week 18, and guilty. I love it. The reason I love it is because it's a puzzle. There's all the playoff scenarios. And that said, we still don't know what's going to happen. It's like for the preseason, we are guessing. Like Jordan Mason, 30% owned, because everyone thought, well, Elijah Mitchell, they need him for the playoffs. Christian McCaffrey is kind of banged up. What happens if he can't go? What happens if he reactivates his calf? Well, they didn't seem to care because they gave Elijah Mitchell more carries than Jordan Mason. So this is kind of what I'm saying is there's just a lot of spots for leverage. You can go against the consensus. And that's what you saw here. And by the way, once again, if you're a DFS Army subscriber, the coaches, cheat sheets, the domination station, we were all pushing Nick Mullins at his value. And it's so funny. I saw people on Twitter just like crapping on Nick Mullins. He's such a trash play. Yeah. First quarter. This is what happens when you start victory lapping in the first quarter. A lot of football left, bro. 25 points. At 5, what was he? 5,000. So he almost 5x his salary. Yep, he did 5x the salary. So that's a great play. It was a great play. And the domination station was pushing Nick Mullins. We loved him all for good reason, because this game was projected as high scoring. He's cheap. He looked competent before, and he's got a lot of weapons. And by the way, it was pushing Justin Jefferson as well. We were all over that. And Johnny Munt is a value play. He'd gotten like 11 targets the week before. So, just a really good play. And again, James Conner, that was another guy. Geek was all over James Conner. I loved him. He helped me win a fantasy championship a couple weeks ago. So, what's not to like about James Conner? He's got the most runs over 20 yards. Pretty crazy. But yeah, it really helped bring this whole lineup together. And then, as we'll see here with the ownership, one of the contrarian plays was Michael Wilson. And because this lineup was very chalky, it was very different than the week 17 lineup that won. So we had, Mullins, chalky, James Conner, 30%, and which is crazy because he's only projected for like 11%. So everyone really got it wrong on that one, but he ended up being a great play. And then Breece Hall, tough matchup, didn't matter. He's getting over 20% target share and just beasting. He's a guy, he's fully healed. He's going to be definitely a top 5 pick in best ball drafts and NFL drafts this next year. He's going to, be a guy that we're going to be targeting for good reason. Same with CeeDee Lamb. This is a great spot for CeeDee Lamb going against Washington. He smashed. And then Slayton again, back-to-back weeks. Who would have thought? But Tyrod Taylor and him have a good connection. So, these guys were somewhat chalky. And then, Slayton was somewhat chalky. And then really just couple Breece Hall, Michael Wilson, and Giants were the leverage contrarian plays. From a pricing standpoint, this really stood out to me. We mentioned this through a lot of our content at DFS Army over the week. With so much value at running back and wide receiver, with all the starters, that were expected to sit, it just made a ton of sense that we were going to see some really good value this week. And that's exactly what happened. You get Darius Slayton, Johnny Munt, Michael Wilson, the Giants. You were going to have a CD Lamb and a Justin Jefferson. You were going to have 2 8K plus players in your lineup. Really had 3 7K plus players. But one at 8, one at 9. That's just how it's set up. And that's exactly how it worked out. So, and last, I guess I will say, the last thing I will say about this, 226 points. So another low scoring week. And, now that this season is over, I want to wrap this all up. So we do these weekly reviews, and the reason why is because we want to see trends. We want to keep track of it because we want to know what's working. How do I build for a large field GPP like this? You're going to have your outliers, the weeks where it's really chalky, but the odds are already stacked against you because you're going against 100,000 plus. The beginning of the season is 200,000 plus. Then it whittles down to like 130,000. But you need to know, like, if I'm building an optimizer, if I'm at, put my settings in to attack a large field GPP of this size, what do I need to do? Do I need it to be QB +2 every single time? Do I need it? What does my ownership need to look like? What, how high of a ceiling am I shooting for? So, we like to keep track of these things so we can see what's working. Now, I'll tell you this, guys. 3-4 years ago, you had to score 250 points to win the Millie Maker. Like, that was the average score. It was like 250 points. It has really dropped. It is way less than that now. So right now we have 238 points. That was a 2023, 2024 season. Last year, it was 240 points. So it's really dropped. So you're going to have a lot of weeks where you don't need to score 250 points. 233, 224, 226, 238, 237, 215, 220, 218, 230, 235, 218. So you will have your weeks where it will still be crazy, like this week. Oh my God, 294, one, just what? With a QB +1, you would have thought it was like a crazy game stack. No. You will have, some 250s, 260s, but overall it's about 238. Same thing with ownership. Keep in mind, there will be chalk smash weeks, but overall, you want to keep your ownership up under 130%. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 times it was under 130%. And, it was pretty close a couple other times than that. Now, you will have your chalk smash weeks for sure. But yeah, most of the time it's going to be lower than 130%, 122% average. One thing I want to look at is in the flex. What is the most common in the flex? So based on this, 9 times there was a wide receiver in the flex. So 9 times out of 18, that's half the amount of times there was a wide receiver in the flex. So you want wide receiver in the flex the majority of the time. I think the exceptions are weeks when there's really good value at running back. And I mean, really good value. But also, like, you have to measure that with, is there really good value at wide receiver that week? So if there's not, and there's glaringly obvious value at running back, maybe that's a week you want to do like 100% running back in the flex. Other than that, you're going to want to do wide receiver in the flex, but you want to allow for a little bit of running back and a little bit of tight end. So, I mean, it's pretty well drawn out for you. 9 wide receivers in the flex, 6 running backs in the flex, 3 tight ends in the flex. So, it's pretty obvious there. Now, primary stack, this was a crazy year, and you'll notice. So here are my primary stacks: QB +1 plus a bring back, QB plus 2, QB plus 1, QB plus 1, QB plus 1, QB plus 2, QB plus 1, QB plus 2, QB plus 3, plus 1 bring back, QB plus 2. And then here we had 2 weeks back to back, week 11 and week 12, where there were no stacks with the quarterback. So there was no primary stack, which means the quarterback with plus 1 of his pass catchers. So one was just a Brock Purdy week, and this was week 11, and I'll scroll down to this right now. And really what this was this was a very chalky lineup, 181%. I really think this was like a cash lineup from what I remember doing the write-up with one pivot. Cash lineup with Khalil Shakir. All these players were super chalky plays this week. And hey, it took down the Millie Maker. This guy won $1 million. I can't really crap on it. Now, week 12, it was funny because when it happened, I was like, there's no way. I'm like, so I'm going to need to see someone win. Life has a way of humbling you, right? I was like, I'm going to need to see someone win the Millie Maker more than one time with an unstacked quarterback before I start thinking it's positive expected value. And of course, it happened the following week. Life humbles you. Life comes just fast sometimes. The difference being the following week is, and by the way, that week did have one stack. It was Khalil Shakir and Kincaid. So, and as I think about it, there were lineups like, so this was the Millie Maker winning lineup, but the lineup that took down the mini max scored higher by a significant amount, at least I think 5-10 points, and it had a stack in it, a primary stack. And then secondly, week 12, this had Josh Allen, who is very much a running quarterback. So he will run when he gets down to the goal line, like he will run I think he ran 2 touchdowns this week, and he scored 43 points. So it makes more sense with the Josh Allen type of quarterback to just have him unsacked, specifically when his pass catchers like Stephon Diggs are expensive and aren't doing anything. But this also had Nico Collins and Kelvin Ridley stacked. So there was still correlation in the lineup. That was so big and so different to any other Millie Maker winner in years past that I just couldn't ignore it, and we had to talk about it. But that really threw everything for kind of it just made things different, because in the past, normally it's almost 50-50 QB plus 1 and QB plus 2, at least it was last year. So with the QB plus 0 happening 2 times, I had to mention it because we had QB plus 1 7 times, and we had QB plus 2 8 times, and then QB plus 3 1 time this past year. So it was almost split down the middle between QB plus 1 and QB plus 2, with the exception of, those couple outliers there. So yeah, that's really how you're going to build most of the time. And then secondary stacks are a staple of winning Millie Maker builds. So that's something to keep in mind, and something I'm really going to do a lot of back testing on this off season to figure out how I can get the right settings to get more secondary stacks in my lineups without forcing it, and having a bunch of lineups that don't, min cash at all. So it's very much something you need to back test if you are using an optimizer. But we had only 4 times was there no secondary stack. So 14 out of 18 weeks, we had at least one secondary stack. In fact, we had one secondary stack 9 times. 9 times. 9 times for those Ferris Bueller people who are old like me. 2 secondary stacks, we had 5 times. So that's pretty much it, guys. Just kind of wanted to go over some of the constants. And of course, we'll do a write-up at the beginning of next year and kind of jump into this. But let's go ahead and look at a little bit of MME strategy. We're only 20 minutes in, so we're not doing too bad. Want to look at some MME strategy, a little bit of week 17. And then we're going to look at week 18. So I got one guy really that DFS Pro, and he's been on a little hot streak to end the season. So we're going to look at him week 17 because No, crap. Of course, this is going to do this. Week 17 was tough. Honestly, I didn't play a whole lot because I actually got married on 1-2-3, so I couldn't be playing a lot of volume. I had to sneak in a few lineups. I'm saying that quiet because my wife will kill me. On our wedding day, really? All right, so Giant Squid, he was kind of, like I said, he was on a heater. He was the one pro that had a positive ROI day. At least the pros that I look at repeatedly, because I'm always trying to find the guys that do best. And if I start seeing a name that appears near the top of the leaderboards over and over, I'll add it to the list and look at their lineups. And if there's any DFS pro that you guys like, who's your favorite DFS pro? In fact, comment. Be sure to hit that like button, but let me know in the comments, because I love studying all the greats. So we have his top lineup. So he this lineup saved his bacon, right? 1,500 positive ROI day. Only made $100, but you put 3,500 at the Millie Maker. That's just how bad the payout structure is. Placed 26th, but was able to get 1,500. And he had Lamar. Obviously, that was what you needed. Lamar and Isaiah Likely. He also had Zamir White and Devontae Adams, with Devontae Adams obviously absolutely smashing, and ETN did well. Rashee Rice did well. Just needed a few more flames, obviously, from some of these guys. Cedric Wilson was pretty good value, but not GPP winning value. And then he had the double tight end, but there wasn't enough from Everett. So that was his top lineup. And, want to take a look at his exposures. And, this is something that I've thought about a lot is, what are my QB exposures, and am I going too high with my QB exposures? And I say that because you'll see here, he doesn't have a lot of Lamar. He was even with the field on Lamar, but out of 150, had that one lineup that placed just outside the top 25 of the Millie Maker. And that's one thing I think that is really hard when you like quarterbacks and great matchups, and you really just kind of want to like go through 30-40% of them. But oftentimes you'll see these guys that do really well, they just kind of spread out their QB exposures. And they never, it's rare that they'll do like over 20% on one guy. Now I say that you'll have Giant Squid who will do that, but then you also have like Whistles who will lock in a guy. But you got to be very like particular about who you lock in. So 17 with Purdy, Hurts 17, and that's it. Will Levis and Geno 12, and everyone was way below that. At running back, though, it's kind of about being particular. He was very particular about going Zamir White, 70% Zamir White. So really good stuff there. And 15, he got 15 points, wasn't enough, but 5,100 is 3x, didn't hurt him either. And honestly, it's just positive leverage because he was almost 50% owned by the field. So and then ETN, yeah, that was a really good leverage play, plus 20 there. As far as positive leverage, under on CMC. So yeah, nothing too, just pretty much flat after ETN and Zamir. And then, yeah, wide receiver, nothing really stands out except Devontae Adams, 17%. And the field was 2. So that ended up being, really best play. No high ownership, with the exception of Demario Douglas and DeAndre Hopkins, Shaheed Wilson, nobody like 40, 50% or more. And then Gerald Everett, I totally agreed with this play. I thought he was the best play on the slate, just to get there in this spot. Eli Stick had been targeting, 9 targets a game plus. Denver's a bad defense against the tight end. So that one made a lot of sense to me. But anyways, another guy I wanted to look at, Hacksaw. I saw his name pop up. Yeah, so he almost won this. And the main reason I want to look at this guy's lineup is because this dude won the Millie Maker like less than a month ago. And he placed 6th in it again. So can you imagine winning the Millie Maker twice in a month? Like most people, if you're watching this is your dream to win the Millie Maker. This dude almost won it twice. So really is a guy that I want to keep an eye out on what he's doing and continue to monitor his builds. He had a Lamar, Zay Flowers build, and Devian Achon, who's just unreal. This dude is averaging like 7.5 yards a carry. He's with over 100 carries. It's just stupid how good he is. Zamir White, Pickens, McBride. So he had Likely too. So he had double tight end and double stack. I was his top build, 6th place, 206. And then another one in the top 100. This was a Tyrod build with Adams, Etienne, Achon. Just crushed by really Devontae Parker here. And yeah, so we're just basically those two lineups. Highest exposures, Tyrod, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes. 8% Lamar, so a little bit more than Giant Squid, but not a lot. And, for the score that Lamar put up, stacking him with the right people, that's the most important part. And 32% Swift, 20% Eckler, and Christian McCaffrey and Zamir White was under on both of those guys. So that ended up, really working out for the best. Yeah, nothing really stands out here. Waller, Kelsey, Likely, McBride. Pretty good group. And then I'm always interested to see, what the exposures are for defense. So yeah, kept it pretty low, but got the Giants, Ravens, the Colts, and the Texans in Denver with the highest exposures. Overall, pretty good. All right. Let's move on to week 18. And then one thing I want to do before we wrap this up, put a bow on this for, the 2023 season. I want to look at the 2-game slate. Because in the playoffs, we're going to have a lot of 2-game slates. We're going to have a lot of 3-game slates. And by the way, this isn't the last time we're going to see Giant Squid. Picking up people that won the Millie Maker. Utica, we covered him. Oh, jeez. Covered him on this show this year, and he actually won it earlier this year. I want to say it was like after the first month of the season. It wasn't long after that. So yeah, Utica is one of the DFS goats, and he won it earlier this year. He's won it multiple times. And as far as week 18, all the pros, he had the best positive ROI day. Yeah, only minus 700. So his top lineup was in the top 100. He had a Jordan Love build with Dontavian Wicks and Aaron Jones. Played some Bijan at 3%. Played some Tajay Spears. I had some of these guys, but not enough. Sucks. You definitely wanted more than them. But it's funny because even though they like went off, they really didn't hurt your lineups because so little of the field was on them, and just everyone was kind of just so spread out because it's like, well, who do you play? There's a million value running backs, a million value wide receivers. So there was a few obvious plays, but then there was 3% Bijan, 1% Tajay Spears. But yeah, Justin Jefferson, he had Bell. Bell was one of those guys that I played a lot of. Pretty low owned, surprising to me in the Millie. And then yeah, Ingram smashed. Dallas D 16 points, so 205. Good stuff. Top 100. Let's take a look at the exposures. And this is kind of what I was just talking about. Specifically on this slate, and this is how I played it. I may have a little bit more exposure to, like overall on the slate, I had quite a bit to Nick Mullins, but on this specific like playing MME, it was like nobody like above 20%, but Utica was even thinner than that, right? Faded Mullins and just kept QB exposures because there was just so many value guys playing Wentz, playing, Desmond Ritter, Easton Stick, like all of these really cheap guys, Tannehill, Blaine Gabbert, Jeff Driscoll, just trying to hit the one that is in the nuts. And Jahmyr Gibbs, I was sharp. I didn't really want to play like any Detroit players, but the DS was pushing it. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take it. I played Lamb, played a little bit of Gibbs. Gibbs ended up doing well. Not Lamb, I'm sorry. I did play Lamb, but Amon-Ra, he did well. I didn't think they'd play the whole game, but they did, more or less. Except for Laporta, who got hurt, which is exactly why I was stupid to play those guys. But Tony Pollard was in a great spot. Yeah, 15% Bijan, really good positive leverage. I played Jamal. He only got the one touchdown, but he was – I like when Kamara was out. I liked the play at his price. Aaron Jones, I didn't like that chalk. I thought it was a tough matchup. He ended up having a pretty good game. Saquon, I loved that. Played some of him too. Give me anytime you give me Saquon under 5% ownership, like he can have a good game. Pretty interesting. It was like 30% owned in small field stuff, but yeah, people were off that, and it was a good fade. Zamir White had he had all the yards. He could have had a much better day. He just really needed to get that touchdown, and he didn't get there. And yeah, you didn't want to be under on Connor, but nonetheless, still pretty good. Justin Jefferson, yes, you definitely wanted Justin Jefferson, 66%, 100% Justin Jefferson. Lave. CeeDee Lamb was even with the field on Lamb. You wanted more Lamb. And definitely a little bit more Slayton. I think he had a good amount of Ingram. Yeah, 24% Ingram, triple the field. That will do it. All right, guys, let's look at one more. We're going to look at the Saturday slate because the playoffs are all about 2-game slates, 3-game slates. So definitely go back and look at these contests and see what's working. So we're going to take a look at it real quick. Let's look at, we'll look at the $5. We'll look at the flea real quick. And then we'll also take a look at the $3. Oh, Fantasy Labs, you always do this to me. Yeah, when I say Giant Squid had a good day, 100 grand there. And that's a 3180. And then in the flea, he won 15K here, which is 20K to first, but yeah, he put some money in there. So his top lineup, no, it was 15K actually. Oh, that's what happened. He split first place. Okay. It's really hard not to have first place duplicated. It just is what it is. So on these 2-game slates, yeah, specifically if you're playing the chalk quarterback. So CJ Stroud, Devin Singletary, and Nico Collins plus Schultz. So Stroud +3 with running back included. Play double running back in the same game. Obviously, because it's 2-game slate, so that's not something you're going to ignore. Play Jonathan Taylor. So 8 all the chalk guys. The one pivot was Nelson Aguilar at 15%, which is really low for a 2-game slate. But yeah, played Stroud, JT, Singletary, Nico Collins, Aguilar, Schultz, Najee, and Pittsburgh D. So, 8 all chalk, 443%, but it won. Let's take a look at his exposures. Did he lock in Stroud? 76%. Okay. I locked in Stroud and lost money because if you don't win first place in a 2-game slate, like it is so hard to profit because everyone has such a similar lineup. So you're playing when you play these slates, just like a showdown, you're playing for first place, so you're probably going to lose money. Singletary, Najee, Warren, and Jonathan Taylor. So Singletary being the highest, was just under on JT and was over on Warren and Najee. Almost 100% Nico Collins. Over on Josh Downs, double the field on Mechie. Over on Deontay. He did fade Pittman. So he was under on Pittman. It wasn't a complete fade, but just under on Pittman. And he was a little under on JT. And I think that's kind of how you get the proper combination to hit that top spot is you don't, and that's what's great about these like 2-game slates and 3-game slates. You don't have to completely fade these guys. The Michael Pittmans, the Jonathan Taylors. A full fade of Pittman would have been great, but still hit the top spot with being 15% under the field on him. 17%. So I like it. So well, that's going to wrap it up, guys. It's been a great season. I appreciate you joining me. If you like this kind of content, let me know so that we keep this coming for you next year. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because we have so much content coming your way, specifically in the playoffs. We're going to keep tournament tactics going. your favorite shows, of course. We're going to keep those going. And then we're going to jump right into, all the other content that we do. Like I said, NBA, NHL, all the sports, NASCAR, esports, you name it, we got it. So make sure you subscribe and hit that notification button so you don't miss an episode. So we will see you all later. Take care, everyone.